person you choose as your life partner will affect your faith, will affect your family, will affect your finances, will affect your fitness, will affect your joy, will affect your outlook, will affect your spirituality, will affect your path. I didn't realize that when I was younger, but someone said the most important decision you make in life is your life partner.
Whoa.
And after being with Ken for 30 years, I know what it's like to pick a bad life partner, and I know what it's like to pick a good life partner. So in this moment, I would say your life partner.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Button 91. We are giving you guys a live talking about this topic. Falling in love with the wrong person will ruin your destiny. Yes, falling in love with somebody who is not meant for you, or maybe that's meant to be for a time in the season, wasn't meant to be a marriage partner, a life partner, can cause absolute havoc and carnage. And after last week, we spoke a little bit about falling in love with the wrong person, and how that affects you. This week, we're talking about how it affects your destiny, your destination, your end goal, where God is trying to call you to, how that makes it difficult. And so we're going to have one of those great conversations. I'm not going to do it alone. I'm going to do it with my co-host. You'll see him in a minute or two. But yeah, listen, I hope you guys are ready for some of the great conversations that are going to happen every Thursday, 7 p.m. We appreciate you guys for joining us as well. And we look forward to having some of these great conversations. In the meanwhile, please make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. We appreciate you guys who are locked in with us as well. Look, King David decided to choose someone like Bathsheba, but he had many other women too. And as much as it is a blessing that King Solomon became the son that was chosen, we saw how there was beef over the throne with his other sons. Okay. All right. We saw how Rachel and Leah with Jacob, how he felt about Leah and how he felt about Rachel. And you saw how the children of the 12 behaved with one another, because it was Joseph who suffered later on because of the fact that there was a choice made in terms of the women that they chose. Right. So there were so many instances in the Bible where you see a man or woman, and how it can affect the destiny or affect the trajectory. Now, gracious to God, he can plan around everything that we decide to do, and he allows certain things to happen because you know what? He's God and he's sovereign, and he can make it work for his good. But today we are talking about falling in love with the wrong person and how that will ruin your destiny. Episode 2. I'm going to bring on my co-host, and we're going to get this conversation with flowing. So I hope you guys are ready for some good conversation. Capitan. How you doing, Catman?
I'm alright, man. I'm alright, my brother. Feeling a bit tired, but you know what I mean. I'm always ready for the greatness that we always do. So let's go.
Yeah, listen, Cap. Listen, we obviously had episode 1, last week. We went, quite deep with that conversation. We broke down some things about choosing the wrong person and why people choose the wrong people. This week, we're talking about falling in love with the wrong person and how this will ruin your destiny and life. When you hear that title, fall in love with the wrong person, it will ruin your destiny and life. Where does your thoughts go to? Where does your mind go to? Like, as an opening statement, what does it make you think of when you hear that opening statement?
To be honest, where I am in my life, it goes to the scriptures that you mentioned and how that played out. And then when I look at my own life, as like we speak obviously off this very regularly, a lot about my life, and I can pinpoint certain relationships I was in where it was going that way. And this isn't just a man thing. Ladies know for themselves that there's certain guys that they've decided to deal with that just derailed where they was trying to go. Whether that's just because how the relationship was or the direction he was taking the relationship in. And even down to how any of us feels towards a particular person where we can't even be people who are healthy or can't even be people who try and take us to a healthy place. So that to me is what it is. I mean, what we've been through, our traumas, societal influences, it really has damaged us, to the point where we are a shadow of the self that was supposed to be under Christ. And this isn't just a Christian conversation. This is for everyone. The the pain, the hurt, whatever it is that's created who we are has really taken us away from where we're supposed to be. And relationships is no different. You know, obviously because of those things where we get into certain relationships, but it's no different. So yeah, so a lot of us are waking up to understanding that what we've been chasing, the pathway that we've been going down for such a long time, has been harming us and has been disturbing our destiny. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's funny because the moment that we step on the right track, all of a sudden things start just falling into place. You're on mute, bro.
Yep, you're absolutely right, bro. And I think obviously with the situations with, falling in love, we spoke about this last week, but some people might say you can't help who you fall in love with. I think you can help who you fall in love with. But I think it's all about choices, right? We make choices. When we make good ones or bad ones, we make those choices, right? Now you're going to be attracted to who you're going to be attracted to, but you make a choice of falling in love with somebody because you have to spend time to do that, right? But as we were saying, obviously, even that video captured it beautifully. I'm going to play it in a second or two. I think when we're talking about, your destiny, we're talking about your trajectory, you're talking about your final destination, where God is calling you. We're Christians here, so where God is calling you, and we see, for instance, and I love the story of like Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. That's like my favorite story because of the fact that there is two choices to be made. Whenever you see two, it means choice. Right? You have Leah and you have Rachel. And really and truly, who his heart really burned for was Rachel, right? It wasn't Leah. And I always say that Leah was a little trickster herself because she had no right accepting what her father-in-law said and went in the dark of the night and tricked the man to sleep with her because she knew what she was doing too, right? So, she made a choice as well. But then that choice that we found out from her perspective really actually hurt her in the long run. Though she had children, which blessed of the Lord our God that we serve, became giants and became the pillars and the bloodline of Jesus Christ, for some of them anyway, while it may have got to that point, she suffered. She suffered because the Bible talks about how Jacob hated her. Not necessarily hate like that, but he disliked, he didn't have a love for her. But that came because she made a choice. And now her destiny is tied to this man who is going to become Israel, but her destiny is tied to that man, right? And so it's really interesting to see how a choice can be made. And obviously with Jacob, unfortunately being tricked, but I had to accept it, right? He made a choice there as well because he really could have run away, but he didn't. So he made his choice, right? And we saw how that plays out for him too, right? That now he has to deal with the fact of two women and try to balance the two women. And in that space, there's carnage between the two of them as well. And now he's got to juggle their destinies too in his hand. And it's very difficult, right? Juggling one person, but to juggle two. And we saw how that ended as well. So yeah, it's just interesting to see how, your life can be affected by a choice of who you end up falling in love with. Now I'm going to play the clip one more time and then we'll get the discussion flowing as well. All right. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I think I did this. We'll get you in there in a second. Hold on. Let's go.
The person you choose as your life partner will affect your faith, will affect your family, will affect your finances, will affect your fitness, will affect your joy, will affect your outlook, will affect your spirituality, will affect your path. I didn't realize that when I was younger, but someone said the most important decision you make in life is your life partner.
Whoa.
And after being with Ken for 30 years, I know what it's like to pick a bad life partner. And I know what it's like to pick a good life partner.
All right. So obviously, you've gone through, like I said, you've gone through scenarios and situations where this title kind of hits to home. Bring us into your world, Jay, a little bit, so people maybe can understand. When you say, obviously, you kind of it's a touching home for you. When you say that, what do you actually mean by that?
So I'll give two examples. And this is me as a Christian in these situations. So the first one, I stopped working because I wanted to focus on my own business, everything else. And then eventually, because I met someone, you know, as Christians, I'm going to settle down. We're going to, I don't know if you can see, but the light, there we go. Yeah, we're going to settle down. So I thought, all right, let me get back into work. So I'm just using my savings. I'm trading on the stock market. And literally, in the same week or two, the relationship I was in was quite toxic. So I don't know, you've been talking a lot about the broken man and all the things that broken men do. Because it was so toxic and there was a lack of love in that relationship come from the other party, I actually prayed that let something happen to me just so I can feel some sort of love from this person, which is wild, by the way. And on literally the next day, I went to go and play football for our church, and I ruptured my Achilles tendon. By the way, because some of you have listened to this, this is the same lady that was, you see, you remember, Coach, the same lady that, you know, we talked about, that I was about to break up with her, etc. So now it kind of makes sense, right? So it took me a couple of months to heal. Yeah, no. It took me a couple of months to heal. And then I said, all right, I'm back out there looking for work. And for some reason, it just wasn't happening. It's just, interviews weren't working out. It was a struggle to the point where I was unemployed for a year. I couldn't understand it. I genuinely couldn't understand it because some jobs were telling me I was overqualified. Some jobs didn't get back to me. I thought it just didn't make sense. The moment that situation ended, I promise you, in 2 days, I got a call, and a week later, I got a job, and that was over a year of trying. Now, for me at the time, I thought, wow, okay, you know, what's going on here? And I remember two specific pastors said to me that sometimes you don't know what God is trying to take you out of just so he can move you in a particular direction, just for you to receive what's going to come your way. But I took it lightly at the time. I understood it 100%, but I took it lightly. I just thought, wow, okay, cool, no problem. But the second time it happened was the worst. Again, my decision. I ain't blaming no one. I'm not saying anyone is bad. I'm just acknowledging who we are with or who we choose to be with. Was obviously my ex-wife. Now, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm not saying she's bad. I'm not saying none of that. I just acknowledge, even though my ministry, even though my destiny was given to me as I got married, what was evident is that this wasn't the relationship that's going to help me fulfill my purpose, just like this wasn't the relationship that was going to help her fulfill her purpose, whatever that was. So there was an inability to move forward spiritually. There was an inability to move forward ministry-wise. There was an inability even just to be the better Jason. And I felt like I was in prison. I'm not just talking about marriage and marital. I'm talking about when it comes to Christ, I felt like I just couldn't move. I genuinely couldn't move. And it came to a point where I was prepared to give up everything because it just wasn't working out in order for the marriage to start working out. Now, in that situation again, when we came to the end, I had to really look at myself as a man and everything else. But through that process, that's honestly why I'm here today, because it's through that process where I felt like I was free. I'm not talking about free from marriage. I'm saying free from a stronghold. Whatever it was, I was free. And that allowed me to move forward, step into my purpose, which is why, 2 years later, 3 years, however long it is, which is why I'm here today. Because like I told you, Coach, privately, that's how we came across meeting each other at that particular show. Because I was extremely private before then, but I said, now is the time. God has freed me. So now is the time for me to step out in faith and step into my purpose and start doing things. So, and I've said it in a very quick summary, but those are two examples where coming out of a relationship, coming out of a marriage, I realized it was like blessings were waiting for me.
Whew. Well, listen. Oh, my internet's freezing me up. Hold on. I don't know if you
No,
guys
you're
can
good,
hear
bro.
me. Am I good? You hear
Yeah,
me?
you're
Yeah.
good.
My
Yeah,
internet's
you're
freezing.
good.
That's why. But yeah, no. Yeah, listen. And definitely, I think what you just explained there is something that happens quite a lot. I think when you're looking at when you're looking at our relationships, I always say this. There's some doors that God will completely shut. And there's some doors where God is like, I'm gonna let you go through it because you're gonna learn a lesson I need to learn. Right now, that's down to God's sovereignty. But there are relations, like you said, there are relationships where you're literally being held back. Right? You're being held back, and the longer you stay in this relationship, the more bound you are. In fact, if you want to call it anything, you are Israel in Egypt. You are being held bondage, and until you release yourself from this relationship, the things that need to come to you won't come to you because it would further cause ruin. You know what I mean? And so, sometimes people are in relationships where they fall into relationships and the time is up. And this is one of the strangest things about God, which is not every situation is exactly the same, right? There are a lot of times where situations can be similar, but like what God will do, what God will allow for you might not allow for me, right? So it may be that, your time is up, but God goes, I'm gonna let you. Okay, you want to stay an extra 3 months? You stay an extra 3 months then. Go on then, right? And God will be like, someone else will be like, okay, your time is up. And it'll look like God has ejected you from the relationship. You know what I'm saying to you? And that is up to God how he wants to do that. That's down to his sovereignty. But you're right. Like there are some moments where when you're in a relationship and it's like you're not able to receive what you're called to do or what you're being called to do because you feel like in this relationship you're being restricted, and the person you're even with is probably not even helping you grow. Right, they're probably not even helping you move forward. They're probably not even somebody that's helping you expand. When you let's talk about this. When you meet someone, and what you're called to, especially if you're a man as well, when you're called to do something, and that person doesn't necessarily push you or expand your mind or kind of input something that's going to make you go, okay, let me change. Maybe I need to look at it differently. I remember dating a previous girlfriend a couple of years ago, way back, and I remember one of the arguments we had was about my YouTube. And at this time, I wasn't full time; I was part time. I was still working, and I remember one of the biggest things was like, I don't need you to watch all my videos. I really don't. I actually don't. I can't lie to you. I don't need you to do that, right? But they never invested themselves in anything that I did on YouTube. They didn't share the videos. They didn't like it. They wouldn't even talk about it. You know what I mean? Nothing resonated with them. Nothing resonated with them. You know what I'm saying to you? And I remember one day I was talking with her and a friend was like, "Yeah, you don't even share like any of his videos. Like that's kind of wild." Like she just mentioned it, and I was like, "Well, at least you see." Like I've talked about it already. Like I'm not going to talk about it again. Like so and then what you realize is, as a man, you are stunted because a lot of us our superpower is the belief of our partner, and their disbelief sometimes is the kryptonite that stops Superman from soaring. So now, when you're in that relationship, and I'm sure this happens for women too, but for us specifically as men, and I know the type of men that we are, I'm not going to say I need your belief. I can do it on my own. But if I come into a relationship with you now, right? I like the fact that you're Lois Lane. I like the fact that you tell me, yes, you can go and do this. Yes, you did it. I believe in you. Did it. I like that because it also encourages me to even do more than what I thought I could even do. It strengthens me. But there are other people that will not do that for you, and they will constrict you. So that's when you know that you're in a relationship that's robbing you of your destiny and your life. That person is not encouraging you; they are stripping you. That person is not uplifting you; they are tearing you down. And sometimes the tearing you down isn't necessarily just they're mean or nasty. Sometimes there's the disbelief there. And even me saying that about that particular girl that I had at the time, I was also not helping her too. Yeah. I remember she was telling me about her dream. She wanted to open up a gym in Ghana, and I was like, why do you want to do that? So I wasn't even uplifting you, encouraging you, and pushing you towards what great things you could be called to do, right? I too became a constrictor as well because fear was in my life. You know what I'm saying to you? So I definitely hear what you're saying on that, bro. Like, when someone is in your life and they're not helpful, it does restrict you. You know what I'm saying to you? You know what I mean? Talk to me, bro.
Even on that, yeah, in both of those situations, imagine you're the person that does do that, but the other party doesn't. So even the first one that I mentioned, I helped to get a job. I helped to apply for roles because she was out of work. I did a lot, but I never got the same energy back. And I guess furthermore, I felt like she didn't even want me to progress because there was a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of, there was a lot of things going on that I could explain why people kind of do this. And even the context of actual husband and wife. There's a movie there's a movie on Netflix UK. I don't believe it's on American Netflix, but it's called The Bank, and it's a story about a particular guy who was a salesman, car salesman, very successful in his town, and he was so successful that he started lending people money, simply because the banks wouldn't. And eventually, people came to him and said, "You should turn this into an actual business because we trust your business acumen." Originally, he was like, "Nah, that's not my thing. I'm not a finance guy. I don't want to do it." But he felt strongly, do you know what? I need to help the people. So he went out with his wife, sat down, had a conversation, as you do as husband and wife, and he gave her just an overview of, this is what I could do. This is what it may be like. What do you think? The first thing she said is, "Are you sure you're going to be able to go against the corporate world, go against London," as they said at the time. For people that don't understand, in the UK, there's a north and south divide. People who live to the north of the UK don't particularly like us in the south, basically. So we're seen as like, the people who love money too much, the people who don't really care about anyone else. But anyway, so her first thought was, "Are you sure you can batter those people down south?" He was like, "Yeah, I feel like I can. I'm confident." And as they was leaving the pub, she said, "Do you know what, babe? I believe in you. If anyone can, I know you can." And even though it's a film, it was done so well where you could see just those words inspired him. And this is a man who's already successful, but it showed how powerful his wife's words in that moment. Now, there's some people out there, ladies, you would have seen this from guys you've dated as well, or even were or still are married to, where you mention something to do with a business, you mention anything, the first thing they lead with is fear. And it could be fear of the circumstance. It could be doubt whether you can actually, do it. And sometimes there could be reasons, but as we all know, when we want to do something, who we want to surround ourselves with in terms of the people, are people who are going to encourage and inspire us. I'm not saying yes men or yes women, but people are going to encourage and inspire us. And if there's anything that we're missing, they're going to come in and say, "Oh, have you thought of this and have you thought of that?" But not in a way that's controlling, not in a way that makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing, but in a way that makes you feel like, "Do you know what? This person's got me." That's the version of a man in terms of "this person's got me." With ladies, we usually speak about that in terms of safety, of having a man that says or makes you feel like, "Yeah, I've got you," and that's cool, right? So to cut a long story short, throughout my life, I've hardly ever had that. Hardly ever had that. And so when it came to the relationship I'm in now, before we even started dating properly, the first thing that we made sure that there was purpose in this. That's the first thing that we did. The second thing for me especially is to understand, even if there's purpose in this, do I have my purpose partner truly? Or rather, is she ready to be there? Does she have the tools, the capabilities, the understanding? And without me even saying anything, she came to me and said, "Jay, you can be on camera, you can be out there, do what you need to do. I'm going to be behind the scenes, making sure things in the back are working accordingly so you can do your best on camera." Now, for me, the types of people that me and Kojo are, we're not the types of people that are going to say, "Wife, stay at home, you just stay there, wait for me to come back, just have my food ready, open your legs," etc. No. We are men that says, "Babe, come with us. Come see what we're doing. Come and enjoy the world with us. Let's go and enjoy." So that's where there's a difference. And I understand in this Red Pill world, you have men out there who are saying, "I just want you to stay home," and that's it. That's fine. If that's what you want, no problem. But when you're dealing with a man who genuinely wants to see your interest just like you want to see his interest, when you're dealing with a man who wants to know that his wife has got his back, it's a transformative experience, trust me. Because when you don't have that, you can literally be derailed. Because at times you're going to choose the relationship over purpose, just because that's usually the way it goes.
It's interesting as well because a scripture came to mind in what you just said, and I want to bring it up because it will actually, tie into what you're saying. And it's actually Jesus, when he goes to heal, I think Jairus' daughter, I believe it is, or the ruler, synagogue ruler. And I'm going to read it real quick, just tie into what you're saying, because this is exactly, and I'll tie it into the relationship aspects and see what we're saying, right? So I'm going to read from is it Matthew? No, Mark 5. Okay, so there's one in Matthew as well, but I'm reading from Mark 5. It's a similar account. So Mark 5 verse 35 says, while he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house some who said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, do not fear, only believe. And he allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James. This first part is important. Do not fear, only believe. He allowed no one to follow him except Peter and James and John, the brother of James. They came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but sleeping. And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the little child was. Taken by the hand, he said to her, Talitha Kumi, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise. And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age. And they immediately were overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this, and told them to give her something to eat. Now, in this aspect, what you realize is Jesus actually put the people outside. So listen, y'all are jeering. I said she's going to rise and she's going to live. And they started laughing. Oh, y'all don't believe? Go outside. Because you don't believe. So go outside, right? And the reason why is because when Jesus talks about doing miracles, he says, "I'm looking for faith in this place," right? And so in the same fashion, when it comes to these relationships, when you have somebody that also believes in you, it changes you. Especially as a man, I want to tell you, listen, from us as men, because I'm a man, I can't say from a woman's perspective, but I'm just saying for us as men, like that aspect of that person when they believe in you. Because it's oftentimes as well, the most people that are mostly successful also to carry trauma. So there is something that person, that belief, that person is more than likely speaking to an area that was not spoken to from very young. That is why it hits different to that person when you're speaking life into them and saying, I believe in you. So in that moment, the things that were dead are now going to become alive, right? The dry bones that were there are now suddenly having sinews and tendons and muscles come together, right? And like you said, bro, I've experienced not necessarily believing. I remember another instance, one of my early girlfriends back in the early days, and it's not what she said, it's what they did. I remember I used to make these T-shirts, and I remember I had a T-shirt which said, if you're looking at me, you've been watching man for too long. So I made these T-shirts, right? And I made a couple of them. And I remember one time I bought like a hat as well, which I look back at it now. I was young. I was just, who knows about fashion? It was an NY cap, but it had Chinese print on it, the silk kind of how the dress looked. Right at the time, I thought I was flossing. I can't lie to you. I had an all red suit too, an all red costume that goes with it as well. I think I was fly. One day, and I remember this moment. One day, I remember I came into school. And her friends had taken some of my items of clothes. And I walked in and it was like, yeah, coach, this. Threw out the window. Yeah. Broski, yeah. Yeah. No cap, no lie. Threw the hat and threw the T-shirt. And I looked at it and I said, are you kidding me? And I looked at it and I said, you let your friends do that? Disrespect. Marked it on the wall. There are things that happen in relationships where you mark it, you can move past it, but you don't forget.
Yeah. 100%.
And it always hits you. And this is why we as individuals have to be very careful. Men and women have to be very careful what we do. Because there are things that people do. I never forgot that moment, ever. And I never brought any of my dreams to her again. I didn't tell her anything. Anything that was on my mind to want to do, I never told her again. Oh, I loved her though, but I just never told her again. But now what did that do to me? It stunted me. Because I was cut by that, bro. I was like, well, it must be. People were telling me this was amazing. They loved it. They liked it. They wanted to buy something for me. I stopped. I still have the T-shirt up there. I still have one there. Stopped. Didn't do it again. But now, well, if you go, it's linked to my YouTube. You see that I have hoodies, everything linked to it. It was preparation for something else. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So the person's actions, right? And bear in mind, I've got to take accountability for my own actions, because you shouldn't let someone kill your dream. I'm just telling you that in that moment stopped it for that time. I didn't have the necessary faith in myself either to go forward and be confident with what I had. So that fragility that I had added to the fact that that disrespect that happened killed the dream for then. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So when you experience those kind of moments with somebody who's a killjoy, you're ruining your destiny in your life. You know what I'm saying to you, right? Now, obviously, by the grace of God, had that killed me fully, permanently, you'd have never seen any of my items. You'd have never seen any of the clothes that I've designed. You'd never seen any of those kind of things that I love, right? But it's that what we're talking about. And this is not a woman thing only. It's a man and woman thing. If you choose a wrong person, this is what you encounter. You encounter dead ends. You encounter moments where you're having to cast that person out of the room because they're laughing at you and scorning at your idea and your ambition. You have to cast that person out because they're unwilling to see the vision and the dream, and say you can't make it. They don't want you to make it because they're probably thinking about themselves too. Like, if you make it, where's that going to leave me? And they probably have their own issues. But yes, choosing that wrong person literally will take you down that road where ambitions are cut short. And as I'm deep, I'm like, rah, like that moment was kind of mad. I literally did stop. Just there, pow, I stopped. I just couldn't do it again because of fear. I was like, well, then maybe people are going to be not like this anymore. You know? So, yeah.
And it's funny that in those situations, we know, like right now, if someone was to tell us that, what would we say? You know, in a roundabout way, we're basically saying you shouldn't be in that situation. But when you actually are in it, it's one of the most, because of the state of mind that you're in, it's one of the most difficult things to do, which is leave. One of the most difficult things to do. But that's because a lot of us are also operating from a broken place. So that's why I say sometimes we're willing to trade our purpose and our destinies in order to be in a relationship or marriage that we was never supposed to be in the first place. Even when I say that, I'm thinking of Abigail and Nabal in the Bible, where if you think about the time frame, of course she would have married Nabal because he's a rich man, he's doing well, you know, he was good. But she knew this guy everybody knew this guy had a horrible character, absolutely horrible character. But she kept it, you know, she kept herself amazing to the point where the Bible describes her as beautiful and intelligent, which is wonderful. And it wasn't until she saved, you know, let's just say the family, saved the business from what King David was about to do because of how much he felt disrespected by Nabal. That's when King David was able to see who she actually was and was like, wow, this is a blessed, absolutely blessed woman. So you can imagine, because of her husband, they was all about to get killed because of his behavior, his attitude, his pride. They was all about to get killed. And that's one of the reasons why ladies today sometimes do lead with that fear, because they've either experienced a man or their father who basically was the same way. And they're the ones that had to come and save the day. They had to step up into his role. So we get that. And even in saying that, I think what we're addressing is a man who not only has dreams, not only is speaking about them, but he's doing things as well to take a step forward. We understand when you have a man who isn't really doing anything, produces no results, what we're talking about can be difficult to do. So, but that's a different topic, that's another day. But what we're addressing is a man who is taking those steps forward. So it's either you take those steps forward with him, you step sideways, you step back, or you don't. You have to make that choice. What type of, you know, person do you actually want to be? And as I'm thinking about my life, when I'm addressing this topic, I just say, wow. I honestly say, wow, because that became part of, you know, I would never get into a relationship with anybody, no matter who it is, if I didn't feel the way I feel now. If I truly didn't feel that my missus has my back and is willing to, you know, go with me in the journey, I'll still be single. And it's important because obviously on camera, you may not know, but there's things me and Kojo are planning privately. There's things that me and Kojo attend. You know, my missus knows the purpose. I've been speaking about culture for the past 2 years. She's seen the vision as well. And I can't tell you how incredible it is to see how elated she is when she's responding to the things that I'm saying to her. And by the way, because I've never received it in my life, even from my father, I became someone I didn't need encouragement. I didn't need you to tell me well done. I didn't need any of that. But seeing how my missus does it so effortlessly, and I understand it's because I'm bearing fruit, I get it. But seeing how my missus does it so effortlessly, it makes me say, wow, this is a different feeling that I never really considered how much I actually need this, how much it actually inspired me to do more. Now, I don't need it in order to do more, but I love the fact that I have someone who is willing to stand by me. And that's one of the things I said to her when we met. I need a team player. I need someone who's going to stand by me, not away from me, not fight against me, not even outside the house. I need someone who's going to stand here, because trust me, when things go wrong, I'm going to be right here. And it's just a different feeling. So to me, any guys or ladies who are watching this, I want you to ask yourself, who are you in relationships? Are you truly someone that stands? And I'm not talking about abusers, cheats. I'm not talking about that. When you've got a good man and a good woman, things might not be okay, or you may not agree with certain things that they are doing, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. Who are you? Are you an obstacle? Are you someone who inspires or encourages? Or are you someone that just digs their heels in and just doesn't want to move? Ask yourself those questions and understand, what impact is that having on the relationship? What impact is that having on the man? What impact is that having on a woman? Because the moment if you're doing things in a negative, and the moment that you start doing things in a positive, you will realize you will get a completely different person. And I think it was another world mentioned it. Being able to pour life into someone is an incredible feeling. Like, it's enjoyable. And then receiving that back, that is a healthy, wonderful, beautiful relationship. Over to you, bro.
Yeah, bro. Listen, you're speaking truth right now, and as you're speaking, what I was thinking about was, like, experiencing somebody believe in you. Of course, I've had, like, my best friend. Obviously, has always been she's a girl, a woman, sorry, and she's always been supportive of my dreams, man. Like, always, like, from day.1. I remember the first time I ever designed a t-shirt. She even wanted me to design a t-shirt for her ministry at the time, Christian ministry. Shout out to her. Like, she installed so much confidence in me, like, for that, you know what I'm saying? She, like, because she always showed that she believed in me, and I appreciate that so much. You can't repay people that do that, you know what I mean? Then I started thinking about a time that I've been in, maybe that I've been in a romantic situation with somebody, and have they supported me. And I remember when I was about to go full time on YouTube, I remember I was talking to my girl at the time, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna do YouTube full time. Like, I feel like God's calling me to it. Da, da, da. And she was, but I can understand that she was fearful. So she was like, how you gonna make the money? Da, 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 da. And I was like, don't worry, it's gonna get done. I'm gonna do it. Like, trust me. Like, and then I remember I said, it got to a point. I said to her, listen, hey, and that's when I knew I changed. I said, if you believe that you can't stay, go. I mean it, cause me, I'm going. And, like, if I feel like God has called me, I'm going. There's nothing you can say. So either you come along or you stay behind. You know what I'm saying to you? And so, in the end, obviously, when I started going about it and I started doing it, but it didn't take long before she became an enemy to me. Questioning, became an enemy. Questioning the counseling I was doing. Oh, why are you doing the counseling? Da, da, da. You know what I mean? Should you be doing that? Da, da, da. And before you know it, the person's become an obstacle in your way, rather than becoming somebody who's going to uplift you. I remember one point, I remember when I got my first ever client, coaching wise, right? One of my first few, and they were somebody on TV. I think it was even Lani. And Lani hit me up, and I was like, yeah, come, let's do the coaching. Da-da-da, yeah. So let's do the coaching. Like, yeah, cool. At the time, and then I must have messaged her, and she was like, why do you want to do it with her? Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. I was like, yo, hey. So all my joy in the moment of, thinking that to myself, this could be a great opportunity, doors could open, destroyed, shut down, broken in that moment, bro. And I just remember the deflation that happened in that moment. But at that point, the difference was, I'm thinking about getting rid of you now. So, like, that was my thought process. My thought process is now not, oh, I'm going to stay here. My thought process was, you've got to go. Yeah, because you're now becoming an enemy of progress. And I've experienced that already for too long, and this is not where I'm at anymore, right? So I've had those moments, and I think this, as again, I don't even want to blame those people, but I want to almost say that, you know what, sometimes God is trying to highlight things to you. There are things that you don't realize that you actually need, and you don't even realize you need it. And then when you get into a relationship, you realize this is actually what I needed, and I didn't need this, right? And so when you see it highlight, you're like, oh wow, this I definitely didn't need that. You know what I mean? And you know that instantly, you know, opened my eyes, and I was like, this is a pattern. I keep choosing people that keep destroying my dreams. I don't even want to
There you
even
go.
say that they're bad people. I want to say that, listen, they just can't see the vision, and they're unwilling to have faith that they need to have in what they see. And I said, and I also took some accountability. I was like, well, because I haven't built anything. I've gone to work, yes, but I haven't built anything. So for them, they can't see the vision. Do you get what I'm saying to you? But I said to myself, well, if God asked me to move, would you move? They wouldn't move. You know what I'm saying? I said, this is like at one point, God tells Abraham, move, leave your house. If Sarah was an enemy of progress, she would have not gone either. Now, bear in mind, Abraham was rich already before then, so the Bible does say he was rich before then, so you can't my little oblige. But you know what I mean? I'm trying to just say like that belief system, you either become a person of faith or you become an obstacle. This happens with King David and Michal, where Saul sent his daughter to become that the obstacle, right? And it gets to a point where David is dancing and enjoying himself on the ark, and she then ends up saying to him, "You're dancing all with your robe on, looking all did it." And he's like, "All right, cool. You ain't getting no kids from me. That's it. You ain't getting no lineage from me. Yeah, ain't nothing gonna come to you, right?" And so that happens. And I said to all to say, like, you know, I experienced the opposite side not long ago. And that's why I said about trauma being one of those things. I experienced the other side where somebody spoke. They didn't have to speak too much. They just spoke enough. And also their actions showed that they believed. And so when you get somebody that their actions or their words speak life of, I believe in you, it shakes something in you. You know what I'm saying to you? Like, it's not like I couldn't do it already. It's not like I wasn't doing what I was doing already. But when somebody that you care about speaks a life into you, that's, you know, that you're partnering with, and they speak a life into you, or they say something like, you know what, I saw that, you can do it, you know. Like you said, bro, it hits different. And more than likely because of the trauma. Like that little boy that didn't get that from their parents, who has, by the way, like I said, like you said, bro, I don't necessarily need my parents now to say to me that we're proud of you. It won't even mean as much now. It's too late. You've missed the boat. You know what I'm saying to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that boat's kind of sailed. But the person speaking life into me saw that and was like, spoke that life and said, I believe in you. And I remember one time I was talking, I was doing something, and it was very simple. I just did something, and I said, whew, that was hard to do, man. She was like, you know what, I'm just proud of you. Bro, listen, I almost cried on the end of the phone, bro. I can't lie to you, I almost cried, bro. Because it hit something. And I said, I didn't realize I've never had somebody partner with me. Of course, I've had friends, but partner with me and actually believe and be ready to run and be like, if you say it, let's do it. Like, if you believe you can do it, go ahead, do it. You can do it. You know what I'm saying to you? Or say, listen, I know you can do it, but this thing, you can also do it as well. I'm like, what? You think I can do that? Yeah, I think you can do it. Go ahead and do it. Like, it just shapes you differently. So your destiny in your life now changes because somebody's speaking life, and you are coming to agreement with that word. You know what I'm saying to you? Where 2 or 3 come into agreement. You know what I'm saying to you? But yeah, go for it, bro.
There's something that Lee said in the chat, right, that I want to address before I was going to say what I was going to say. It says, from a woman's perspective. There you go. So, as I said earlier, as men, we understand this. We generally do understand this, especially when we talk between ourselves privately as men. We actually do understand this, especially because of where women have come from. But one of the things I mentioned is you need to understand who you are, because what's the word can I use? If he's still transforming, was he transforming when you met him? Because if you meet him as that, then the position that you need to assume is someone who's going to support that journey, not someone who's, I guess, wants things to just be in place. So this is the question I say, like, ask yourself, who are you? What do you have the capabilities to do? Someone like Ebony K. Williams, under no circumstances is she gonna help someone transform. Because look, the whole point of a wife is that you help the man lead. I'm not saying you show him what to do or anything. It's just that you do your part in the place that God has called you into, so that he becomes a better leader. Just like he is supposed to do his part in the place that God called him into, so that you become a better wife. It's just this is a matter of the fact. It's not equal, it's just different. And I think that misunderstanding is really prevalent in today's world. But you have to understand, who are you and what are you prepared to do. That's the main thing. And for me, I always think about King Xerxes and Vashti. Because of what Vashti did, King Xerxes had a decision to make. If I keep this woman in the kingdom, in the place that she's in, despite what she has done, it's probably going to derail the whole kingdom. It's going to derail everything. And that's not good. That's not great. So I need to make an executive decision. Ladies love quoting Proverbs 31. It's always verses 10 to 31, but we always miss out verses 1 to 9. The first verse, the king's mom is pleading with her son, pleading, please listen to me, please listen to me. And the first thing she says is, stop. I'm going to say it the way I'm going to say it now. Stop giving your strength. Stop wasting your time. Stop spending all your energy on women who ruin kings. That means that there are some people that we generally encounter, for whatever reason that we accept them into our lives, we was never supposed to, and they was always going to derail us. There's nothing we could have done. This was just this destiny being connected to this particular person. There you go. Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. Then she goes into certain aspects of, as a king, these are the things you need to be careful of. These are the things you need to focus on. Then she goes into, if you are choosing a wife though, these are the types of characters she needs to exude so that she is an asset to the destiny, an asset to the purpose, an asset to what you're trying to build, to what you're trying to maintain, to what you're trying to grow. And that goes both ways. Both ways. Ladies, the same thing. It goes both ways. Really pay attention to who that man is and what is he doing. Just because he has money, that's not good enough. Just because he's good looking or he has a nice smile, that's not good enough. Pay attention to his character and where he's going and what he's doing. So many people get with, certain people who may seem like everything's all right, but, they're extremely unhappy because that is a destructive relationship or a destructive marriage. And it takes time to recover from, absolute time. Sometimes there are things that you've lost. But as Kodja was saying earlier on, God is faithful. So there's certain things that will come back around, sometimes different, sometimes even better. But we have to make sure that we are in position in order to receive it. To me, this is what the Bible speaks about from back to front. How do we step into alignment with what we're supposed to do? Because when I think about marriage, unless stated otherwise, the Bible assumes that you already know what you're doing. The Bible assumes that you already have the faculties in place in order to make the right choice. And when people haven't made the right choice, it's always a question. Why did you do that? If you speak about King Solomon, why is this man on earth? But he still made silly choices. Why did you do that? Why did you? You should have known better. That's why there's a difference between how we address each other as Christians and how we address non-Christians, because there's a difference of expectation. It's just that maybe because of trauma, maybe because of influence in society, we have stepped out of alignment. So it's down to us to re-educate ourselves on the things that we need to know in order to position ourselves where we need to go. And that to me is the revelation that I had 3 years ago. The way I looked at it was I had to step back into where I had left God. Now I didn't leave, the faith or anything like that, but I left God where I was supposed to go with him. And I went in another direction. So it's all me. It's all me. But God is such an amazing God that I knew it's time to go back. I know he's going to be there and I know he's going to have things waiting for me, just like the prodigal son. And I said, where I am now, I'm never allowing that to happen again, because it's horrible. It is horrible. Honestly, the person for you is a person who's going to help you get to that destination, not someone who's going to derail you. Honestly, don't ever think otherwise, because it's a horrible situation to be in. My relationship is getting to know Christ yourself is going to help you overcome a lot of these things. And she will tell you, in fact, before I even say what she will say, because we was together back in the day, I still remember that she was the first person to show me the love of Christ. And that's me being a broken man. So that showed me what it means to be loved. This time around, things have happened. You know, she kind of thought certain things about herself or certain things about relationship. She will freely say that the way I poured into her, the way I loved her through the eyes of Christ, it completely transformed her. It transformed her perspective. It transformed everything. So that now she feels inspired to make those movements. And I said, oh, cool, Jason, well done. Because at least that teaches me I'm in alignment with where I need to be as a man. It doesn't mean I don't need to continue doing the work. Oh, trust me, I do. So if I don't, the devil will catch up. But it just means that's where it starts from. That's the foundation. Yes, there's people who are not Christians who are able to do it. That's cool. But as God's, like you say, people are still following the godly principles. And to me, it's the godly principles of success. So the point was, a lot of us have fallen out of alignment with those principles, give ourselves excuses, give ourselves justifications to continue on a destructive path. And yeah, it's an eye opener when you realize I need to fix up. But at the end of the day, we have to do it. We truly have to do it to get to the place where we need to.
There's a question here. How do you deal with knowing that you've fallen in love with the wrong person but have a child with them? I'll let you answer this because.
Why me? That's well, you didn't say he was married, which is a good thing. But it's always difficult. Don't let no one make you think it's not difficult. And just like don't let anyone make you think just because you have a child, you're stuck with them for life. To me, it's the things that we've already addressed. Like, who are you as a person? And what's your relationship with Christ like at that point in time? Because you also need to have the belief that if you don't choose to be with this person, that you will find your kingdom partner. But before you get there is to be able to go through that particular situation. Because one thing I learned the hard way is no matter how hard you pray, no matter how hard you fast, no matter any of the Christian things that we do, no matter what people say that we should do to get breakthrough, to get answers, when it comes to what we need someone else to do, none of that works unless that person themselves is willing to allow God in to transform themselves. It's not going to work. So the question is, are we only going to be with them if they change? If that's the answer, then we shouldn't be there in the first place. We need to have more confidence in ourselves to walk away because we need to accept that person for who they are. Who are you now? Can I be with you? Yes, we've been together for this amount of time. I've fallen for you, but evidently, if I continue on this pathway, I'm going to be destroyed. My life is very important. Where I'm going is very important. And I need someone who's going to go with me. These are realizations that I've had, and it's taken me time. So I'm not saying it's going to happen just like that, but we all need to be bold enough to make those steps. Now, don't get me wrong, you have every conversation that you need to, but there needs to be a point where you have to make a decision and go through the process of what that's going to come with.
Definitely hear that. Definitely. Yeah, no, listen, I think, that, dealing with somebody that you love, especially if you're a believer, hopefully you're a believer, sis. If you're a believer, it does. I told you the cheat code yesterday. I told you last week that there's a cheat code. Jay hinted at it by telling you how he prayed and his Achilles went. But listen, there's a cheat code. There's a cheat code with prayer, and asking God to intervene. The cheat code for these situations is letting God intervene. Whether you're married or single, the cheat code is asking God to get involved. There is something about God choosing the most delicate times to enter a situation. It's at the point where you are at your most desperate that when you plead unto God, because okay, let me intervene now. And listen, he may intervene in a way that, and oftentimes, I wouldn't say oftentimes, there's a lot of times that has been where you think God would just like, okay, maybe God might just be like, Okay, whisper in the person's ear, give them a dream, and that person might be like, you know what, this relationship ain't for me. But there are other situations where God will take a longer route, a scenic route, to get the situation to work out in a particular favor. And if you're on a scenic route, pay attention, because it means that God is trying to give you a lesson in how to maneuver in certain situations like this. You know what I'm saying to you? So in these situations, I always say, listen, that ask God to get involved. If you believe that it's not the right relationship, you pray that prayer, which always works. God, let your will be done in this situation. And you will start to realize things will start to happen. But like I said, I always feel like there's like two different ways that God kind of handles it, probably more, but I like the two different categories for me are God just goes, you know what? Thank you. That's the permission I needed. Dream, vision, a whisper in the ear, they see something and they're like, you know what? I don't need to be in this relationship. Right.
There you go.
But there are other situations I can promise you he takes you on a scenic route. And it's like, you're like, oh God, why is this how? And then things get worse. Yeah, people things can even get worse. Yeah, things can. I'm not gonna promise you things are gonna get better. If I do, I'll be lying to you. Sometimes things can even get worse, and you were like, why God is it getting worse? And it's because God wants to take you for a scenic route to teach you a lesson, so that you can learn some important wisdom in that moment. Because whatever you're about to come out shining. You see, the Hebrew boys probably they said, listen, hey, we are not about to bow down. Now I'm sure in their mind, they said, listen, hey, we're not gonna bow down. We're not gonna worship your idol. And you can throw us in the fire if you want to, right? But you know, our God is good enough to save us. And if he doesn't, he's still good. Now, they got thrown in the jar. They got thrown in the fire. That's what it is. Like, it got worse. Do you get what I'm saying to you? It got worse. But in the midst of that fire, Nebuchadnezzar says, I see somebody like the Son of Man walking around. There's a fourth man in that fire. Right? So sometimes that fire is there to reproof, reprune you, it's to shape you, it's to birth you again. It's to be a momentous moment, an altar onto you to remind you that God is God. Because sometimes we need to go through these situations where there's an altar that's placed in our heart and we're like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I got burnt so bad, I'm never doing that again. And I'm never doing a situation without God. Because sometimes some of us need to go through that. So I don't want to promise you by you praying and saying God intervene that it's going to be a simple separation. Some people do, but there are other situations where it gets worse and you are in the fire and you're asking God, God, why? And I would understand why you're asking why, but stick at it because he's teaching you the lesson. And that lesson is going to be so powerful. You'll be able to teach other people. You'll be able to prevent other people from going down that lane too, because you'll have a testimony that tells people that you were tested. And here's the money to prove it. I've got the story to tell you. Do you know what I'm saying to you? So sometimes it can get worse. So just to say that. Any last words on this, Jake? So I was coming to an end on this.
I mean, even for us, we're not talking from a place of opinion. We're talking from a place of experiencing this multiple times to the point now where, we're not playing no games of it. We're absolutely not playing any games of it. And to get to that stage, it was horrible. Like, it was horrible. All the feelings you have to go through, because what Kojo is describing is you get to a place where you have to look at self and uproot why you made that decision, why you chose to stay in that place in the first place, knowing it wasn't right for you. The amount of people that I encounter that says, I knew I wasn't supposed to be with this person. Like, God was telling me from time I shouldn't keep entertaining this. I shouldn't, be in this. And all we keep doing is harming ourselves once we don't listen to the truth for the matter. And even in that, again, because of trauma or bonding or whatnot, sometimes we have to accept that we have to be the one to take control and make those maneuvers to get out, even when the person doesn't want to. In doing that, we have to understand things are just going to be worse. Yeah, it's going to be horrible from now on until things get better. But in this situation, there is no better. This is just what it is. God can create miracles, but it doesn't mean he wants to create a miracle in this particular situation. Sometimes we have to stop and literally allow God to do the work, not tell God, this is where you need to do the work, because he will shock you. And when I came to that realization, I let everything go. I literally said, whichever way you want me to go, God, you take me. I just want to be ready to do what I need to do once I'm there. And, that's what I want to leave you with. Like, regardless of your situation, regardless of what you're in, because you've all made bad decisions, just allow God to truly take control and he will direct you. If you need to pray, you need to fast, do that. In that year of separation to divorce, I prayed consistently. I spoke with mentors. I was counseled. I fasted 3 months, 1 month each time, each point of separation, point of divorce discussion, and the month of the actual divorce, every single time. And the answers given to me were the same every single time. So never forget God, during that process. And like Kojo said, like I said, it doesn't mean it'll be easy. Don't let anyone pretend. It's going to be hard. But I promise you, as someone who has come out of it, as someone who has fallen back into alignment, or if I let me say it differently, has risen back into alignment with God and is receiving the blessings that come with it, honestly, I want to say that my life has been worth it. Honestly, my life has been worth it to get to this moment. And it's funny because I asked my missus, so in fact, she asked me today, is there anything that, that she's not doing that I would want her to do to make the relationship better? My response straight away was, I have no complaints. I've never been able to say that in my whole entire life, but I have no complaints. And I say, that's a blessing. That's honestly a blessing. No, we are not perfect, but in terms of what I care about, in terms of how I want this relationship to go, in terms of her partnership in it, I couldn't ask for anything more. So that's what I want to leave you with.
Thank you for that, Jay. I appreciate you. Listen, look, audience, look, we'll be back again next week. Yeah, next week. Yeah, 20 back next week. We'll be back next week. Same time again, 7 p.m. And we'll have a more positive one. We want to talk about, when you know you're with the right one. We talk about when you're with the right one. You know what I mean? Actually, no, sorry, apologies. We'll do that the week after. I wanted to do another topic, which is, sorry, apologies, for us as men. So, a specific one for women to seeking out how a man should lead. You know what I mean? I think that would be a good topic. Yeah, I think that would be a good topic instead. So, because we always talk about how falling in love with the wrong person, we kind of gear it towards women. Let's give a little bit of positivity now, like what to look for in a man that is a good leader, somebody you should actually think about considering. You know what I mean? If you're to be in a relationship, what are the qualities to look for in that person as well? Because we talked about all falling along with wrong people. How do we see the right people? What are we looking for? So we'll talk about that next week as well.
You mentioned one today. Is he a man that bears fruit? You should already be able to see that. So that's one already.
There you go. Listen, that's a takeaway for you guys. Someone who bears fruits. Okay, so next week we'll be back with another one, talking to you guys about a man who is a good leader. What to look for? What are the good things to look for in a good partner who is a man, ladies? So we'll be back next week, and we'll be having a very intriguing chat. So thank you for you ladies and gents who stayed with us and conversed with us. We appreciate you. We'll be back again next week. Much love, much appreciation.